Welcome to CDO Magazine community. This is Asha Saxena. I am the founder and CEO of WLDA, Women Leaders in Data and AI. And I have with me Ellen. Ellen.
Hi, Asha. My name is Ellen Nielsen. I'm the Chief Data Officer of Chevron, and I'm so happy to be here with you.
We've known each other now for a while, and every time I hear your story, I'm fascinated by it. And especially this is a Women's International Month of March, and I'm so happy to be talking to you not only about our journey but also our learning, which we can share with the entire audience. So, I'm curious about your journey. If you want to share a little bit about how you got started and how you got here to be the CDO of Chevron.
Yeah, so that's of course a little bit longer story, as my career is already 30 years long. But I would say maybe starting how I started it was kind of a systems engineering type work. And I really didn't know what it was at that time, but got really involved in all the computer stuff 30 years ago as a woman. And there were not many. So I have to say, when I started, then after my education, started my first company, which was actually a startup, but this word was not even known at that time. I know that you know a lot about startups. And then this was bought by Siemens. So I became a system engineer and engaged a lot with customers on the banking, retail side. So I was always very oriented to customers, but of course, bringing my technical knowledge. And then moved on to another company, which was bought by General Electric, got ingrained with all the good things GE had at that time, Six Sigma. So I absorbed a lot during this time and learned a lot in terms of customers again. I started dealing with automotive customers at that time, which I was really passionate about. And maybe a little story here, because when you were a woman in the automotive industry at that time, it was also very rare, I have to say. And then this combination with IT and automotive. So I was pretty famous in this group of customer and my team because I became a kart racer. So I was really good in kart racing and I loved it. But they were all surprised that I could do this so well, so they always wanted to beat me. That's maybe a little side story.
You were car racing?
Yeah, but of course not publicly, officially. So we did this on kart racing tracks and had competitions, but it was all internally. So that was pretty funny. Yeah, and then I moved further on to Hewlett-Packard, went really deeper into sales. So I wanted to understand what's the sales side of it and how do I like it as an engineer. So I had to practice my different language and understand what the customer needs were. And then I moved on to a consumer goods company, Henkel, 11 years. And my key learning there was, okay, don't think that you have planned a path. It might take you somewhere else. And you have to take the opportunities. So I got opportunities. First, I thought, oh, is this really a good opportunity for me? And then I took it. And it was changing my trajectory in my career significantly from there on. Yeah, and then with Chevron, I'm now in my end of my fourth year here, started in procurement supply chain, which is my second leg on I gained during my career in terms of knowledge. And then, become the Chief Data Officer 2 years ago. And I love this topic, and love also the culture and the company.
I have to tell you that when I started my career, I was an engineer. My undergrad and grad is in computer science. And, I really, truly thought I was going to be an engineer forever. I took my first job and I said, I'm happy. And, I have to tell you, going back as a young kid, I always wanted to be a journalist. And my parents said, you cannot be a journalist. You have to be a doctor or an engineer, coming from the background I come from. And so I became an engineer and I said, that's my path. But I have to tell you that a lot of engineers either stick to their profession or they sometimes venture out. And very quickly, I started my career as a consultant. It was a consulting firm. And very quickly, I became an engagement manager. And I was working at Merrill Lynch. And I immediately became responsible for P&L. And I grew my team we were 2 programmers to about 80 programmers. And I tell you, when you spoke about sales, I think it's such a great skill when you are engaging with people and understanding what their needs are, what their problem is. And as an engineer, it's a crucial skill to have when you're engaging with customers and understanding their problem. And I think that helped me, and I'm sure that helped you in understanding what your consumer wants when you're building something for them. And that's where I started really progressing. My uh, boss at that time, came to me and said, yeah, we are getting acquired and you're going to get laid off. And I was very confused because I wasn't sure if he was happy that he was letting me go, or, he was sad, or he was going to teach me something at that moment. And he said, Asha, you should start your own business. And I said, what do you mean? He said, the client really loves you. At that time, Merrill Lynch, and he said, you understand their problem, and it would be disservice if I stopped you from continue working with them. And I think that my biggest lesson, and I would say anybody who's listening to our video, is that what my learning was that, first of all, learn to understand, especially when you're an engineer, learn to truly hear your customer's problem so you can solve that. And the second thing which I learned was that when you really truly do a good job, you will be recognized at some point. If you feel you're not getting recognized at that moment, but you will be if you do a good job, because people watch, and your reputation and your brand is really, really important. And even though I was a woman, I could say, and we're talking about being a woman, I always say to the younger women is that focus on your content. When you walk in, don't worry about your different. Focus on what value you bring in. And I think that really stuck to me, is that every time I walked in a room, I always focused on, am I adding value? And I really, really, narrowed on that to continue showing up every single time, working really hard. What was your learning? I know, as you said, you were the only woman, you had to stand out. What was your learning?
Yeah, that's a big question, because I think we know, and you had a lot of learnings too. I know on your journey, and some learnings have a huge impact, and some learnings actually follow your whole career. And maybe I have one snippet here I still use today. Yeah, so it's the same thing. Get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So do something where you have not the knowledge, and you have to gain the knowledge, and then your learning is bigger, your learning curve is bigger, and that opens up also other opportunities you might encounter. And that's, I would say, my biggest lesson learned. Don't be afraid. Take a risk. The risk will be awarded. You will figure it out, and everybody can learn everything. So I'm a true believer in this, and yeah, that's maybe my biggest lesson learned over the whole time.
When you talk about risk, of course, when I had a secure job and had a resume that I could go out and get another job, when my boss said to me that, oh, you can start your own business, it was huge risk. I had little kids. I was pregnant with my second child, and I was like not sure if this was a good choice for me to actually, when I could actually go out and get a secure job. And when I started my own business, I have to tell you that I always say entrepreneurs are good at calculating risk. So when you are taking a risk, make sure that you look at everything that is entailed. I always say that if you have education and you have the credential, you take a risk. It's a safe risk because you have the credentials to fall back on. So never really stop just because you think it's too risky. You look around and see if you really looked at all the aspects and you can jump forward or not. Another thing which I see, we're going to talk a little bit about WLDA, women leaders in data and AI. But what I hear a lot of our peers talking about is that when they're making the career shift, a lot of women, and listen, all the women leader experiences we are talking about right now could be applied to men. There are some men also who would feel, I'm not sure when I walk into the room, am I good enough? The imposter syndrome is real. We do see that a lot in women. And a lot of times the women will say, I need to have 100% skill before I apply. And I think we have spoken about that quite a bit, that if you don't have the 100% skill, but you know that you're 80% there, say yes to the opportunity. Do you want to comment on that?
Very resonates with me. And Asha, I think as we talked during the years, you give a great advice on how to manage risk. And even when you tell the story about when you started your company, I immediately feel like, oh, can you manage the risk? You know, I think everybody maybe feels that listening to this, can I start my own company in this way? And what does that mean to me? And especially with you with 2 kids. So this is amazing how you did that and how you managed through this. And I would say, yeah, you feel sometimes not good enough and it's not fitting in a mold, or you don't handle it in the same way as others do. You are compared with others, let's say like also our man colleagues, and say, okay, you should behave a little bit more like this or like this. So be true to yourself. And I also did the same thing. I was concerned when I took another job. Can I manage? Can I handle it? And then typically you have a support system. It might be your spouse, your partner, your family, your friend. And I had a friend at that time and she said, what are you talking about? You can't do this. And it gave me confidence to jump on it. And yeah, I never regretted it. So I think a support system in this way, when you doubt yourself, reach out to somebody you trust and explain it. And I think they will lift you up. That's very important, that you have people lifting you up. And I think that's also something what I actually heard recently. I listened to a masterclass from Melinda Gates talking about philanthropy. And she said, so when you lift a woman, so a woman gets lifted by support system, by men, by the surroundings, she will lift also her children, her family, her community, and maybe even countries. So that was a very powerful statement, how to see a woman in our society and how we can play a role. So lifting somebody up when this person is in doubt is important. And we all need this. We cannot just self-sustain it and talk to ourselves. I think we need somebody else also telling us.
You know, I have to tell you that when you talk about community, and I think what we build in women leaders in data and AI, the community is so amazing because, you know, and I want to talk about the purpose. You know, a lot of time when you become a senior leader, you look for my purpose, you know, my impact and what kind of impact we are having. And during the pandemic, it was really a great time for me to reflect. And I was reflecting on what kind of impact I've had. You know, I was writing a book, The AI Factor, which is coming out in February. And, you know, I was just putting everything I knew about as a consultant, building the data and AI strategy and how businesses can use AI to effectively create growth within the organization, which was great, right? That's what we do. That was the skill I had. But what I realized during a conference, when I read the slide and said there are only 18% of the women who are writing this algorithm, and during pandemic, all these organizations were going digital faster than we thought they would. And we are creating a digital world, and there's not enough women building this digital world. And when we talk about data, it is so important we have diversity. And we talk about diverse data sets, and we say, go out, you know, create the synthetic data if you don't have enough data. But really look, who are the people who are looking at this data? And so that was really something that bothered me. And I remember Ellen reaching out to you and saying, do you want to join this community to see if we can create a better world? And can we leave a legacy? And you immediately said yes, because you said, this topic, this issue is important to me. And we created WLDA, which is Women Leaders in Data and AI. And what we realized, and I love seeing these senior leaders who are coming together to help support each other. You're in constant communication. But I also see the difference between the manager and a leader. I think someone can have a title, but true leaders are the people. And I see that, Ellen, you do that really, really well. And I want you to talk about it a little bit. Is that caring about people? You know, when I see leaders who truly care about not just the number, it's not just about metrics and profit all the time. It's really about building people so they can have a fulfilling and be a highest potential, you know, perform at a highest potential of their own. The results are going to come. But really, as a leader, do you build people? And so can you talk a little bit about in Chevron, what are you doing? I mean, you do so many things in Chevron. I mean, in fact, Chevron got the award for the Corporation of the Year at WLDA. So talk a little bit about what you're doing and what can other organizations learn from Chevron and what you've done in Chevron.
So in Chevron, we do actually a lot. Since I got to know you, got to WLDA, and saw what the power of a network can do within our community and help me to get connected to fantastic women. I thought, okay, we have to bring this into Chevron. And we are big in engagements in diversity and inclusion. We have a Women in Digital group with hundreds of women in this group. And the purpose is, of course, to collaborate, to share, to develop a career within the company in digital and data. That's encompassing all. I also have to say we are having a chief technology officer, who is a woman, Ima Warner, in Chevron, and that's amazing. So I think that leads also, if you have, of course, a woman on the top of our technology center, that's a big role model, and lifting a lot of women up, saying, okay, wow, this is possible, and we can get there. So what we did with WLDA is we said, okay, we want to bring the mastermind circles within the company to have the middle management, as you say, the mid group connecting, building this kind of connected tissue, helping each other within their leadership challenges, within the certain challenges in their environment there are. And I got a feedback actually at the very early beginning. Somebody said, that's the best coaching I ever got, so, and it's basically helping each other. And then the second thing, what we did was the speaker series. So when we use the power of WLDA with all the great knowledge from women who have achieved a great career in the data and AI space, we brought them into this specific special interest group of women in digital, and they presented their journey, or they presented it to a certain topic. And we had hundreds of people listening to it and absorbing it, asking questions. And that also shows the opportunities women can have in this space. So that's very important for us, that we support the women in a broader group, because they're everywhere in the data and AI space within the company.
Exactly. And I think that's where the peer group is so powerful, that when we come to, and when I started the organization, that was the intention, to bring the peer group together. So there is networking, there's a community, there's growth, and there's an impact. So it's really bringing the senior leaders together. And I love when you said, as a senior leader, I'm benefiting from the mastermind circle, I'm benefiting from the speaker series, I'm benefiting from the summit, the visionary leadership forum. But what about my mid-managers? What about the women in my organization? And that's when the WLDA at Work was born. And we took the WLDA to Chevron and took it to L'Oreal and so on. And the goal was to bring the WLDA mastermind circles to the mid-managers. And I'm so happy to see, Ellen, as you said, that a lot of women appreciate that so very much, because this is where they don't have that kind of coaching or mentoring, which is available through mastermind circle, through their peer group, where they can be authentic and create these connections and learning. So as we are coming close to the time, let's do a quick close. One thing which you would leave the audience behind with, what's one thing they can do, or what's one learning they could do in their life that they could take on and create an impact? What would that be?
So I would say maybe the advice or the recommendation, I think you cannot say real advice, because everybody is in a different stage of life. But think about your own career, think about your area, your responsibility, your team, but also think about the others outside. So I think there's so much outside you can benefit from. You can get connected, be open for connections, reach out, and it's not coming to you automatically. So it's not like, okay, I'm signing up for WLDA and it just drops on me. There's always a giving, and the giving is very important. So you will see, when you give, you get something in return. And that's what I always learn. You have to give first, and then you get a return favor later. So start giving, and it will come back to you. And I think everybody knows that when in the normal private life, when you are active in charity or nonprofit, you typically give, and then something is coming back to you. You gain knowledge, or you get to know other people in other contexts, which is very enriching. So be giving.
I love that. I think it's resonate with the Melinda Gates quote also, is that build a woman I would say I'm taking that actually from you, is that build a woman because you build a village if you build a woman. So if you want to have an impact, go out and give, as you said, give more than you take, because when you're a giver, it's really a rewarding trait to have instead of being a taker. And second, I would say that definitely promote a woman, build a woman, because you're going to build a village. And I would say the third thing is we are in data and AI. What better way or better place to create an impact when you actually support diversity? If it's a woman, a man, gender, ethnicity, really support diversity. I know it's easy to be said than done, but really start taking baby step. I think you start with small steps to win the war. So just take baby steps to make sure you're moving in the right direction and continue. We are at WLDA, Women Leaders in Data and AI. If you have any questions about how Chevron is promoting women leaders or supporting diversity, feel free to reach out to Ellen. Or if you want to learn any of the things we are doing at WLDA, Women Leaders in Data and AI, feel free to reach out to me. We will be happy to share our successes, our struggles, our wins, and hopefully can create an impact. With that, happy Women's Month. Happy March. Thank you.
Thank you.